For those of you who don't watch much ITV2, you might be interested to hear what you've been missing. Dapper Laughs is a comedian, real name Daniel O'Reilly, who found fame being outrageous on the web and then secured a series on ITV2. His comedy is what you might call extreme laddism, sexist, crude, the works. But before we go further, it's probably best to see a bit just to get a handle on his style. Some of the language, I should say, will be pretty offensive to some.
Some girls complained, said my vines are sexist and self-indulgent. At the bottom of my heart, they're about comedy and not about getting girls moist, okay?
It was his online popularity, with over 1 million Facebook fans and 300,000 Twitter followers, that attracted the attention of mainstream television executives. His programme ostensibly offered tips to guys on how to pull.
I want to help you guys find Mr. and Mrs. Right. Do our bollocks. What I'm going to do is show you lot how to pull. Yay! She knows.
But his controversial humour and his remarks on Twitter about women started to attract the wrong kind of attention.
All day, every day, just cranking away.
ITV2 received complaints, and by today, more than 50,000 people had signed a petition demanding the channel drop him. In the end, it wasn't the content of his programme or his tweets that saw him get the axe. Just hours after this footage of a live gig emerged this afternoon, ITV said they weren't commissioning a second series.
A guide, a go-to guide. It's a rapist go-to guide. It's a rapist go-to guide. My TV shows, I've filmed 6 episodes, half-hour each episodes, right? If it was a guide to rape, I would have done one 5-minute episode. I would come and go, hey, yeah, I'm Dapper Laughs, go down the shop, get some rope, bit of duct tape, rape the well done, see you later.
Well, that's Dapper Laughs. Today, ITV said he won't be getting a second series with them, citing activities outside of the ITV2 programme. James Brown was editor of the original Lad mag Loaded. Sali Hughes is a columnist for The Guardian. They join us. James Brown, can you explain the humour? What is funny?
I think he's hard pushed calling himself a comedian. You know, I don't think he's that funny.
No.
I think what he does is, I think he represents a sort of a flippant outlook on life that's common to a lot of young guys. But I don't think he's particularly cool.
But can I just ask this? Do you think he's being ironic or not? I mean, so
no, I don't think he's being ironic.
Garnett, you know, was saying lots of racist stuff, and he was playing a character who you were laughing at that type of character.
I don't think he's being ironic. I think the only things that are affected are kind of like a sub-Danny Dyer, Ali G parody. You know, I don't think he's actually saying, you know, there's not that many sharp lines. Hang on, like if a guy came out of my house, as he does on his show, and an older guy, and started asking me how big my cock was, I'd kick him out the door. I mean, he doesn't come across as a naturally confident man, I think. I think there's a lot of, you know, he comes across like kind of a cheap crook on Oxford Street who's trying to sell fake perfume in empty boxes. He doesn't.
Is he dangerous?
No, I don't think he is dangerous. I think if he's dangerous, we wouldn't be discussing him here now. I think when you look at, I think if he was dangerous, he'd been locked up now.
Well, not
as he was saying, he was there. But I think that when you look at his tweets in the cold light of day, it does look like he's grooming a sort of an army of awkward apprentice rapists. But when you see him on the TV show, he just looks like an idiot.
Sali Hughes.
Of course he's dangerous, of course he is. He responded to a couple of female bloggers writing or taking exception to his show, as they have every right to do, by telling his many hundreds of thousands of followers to tell them to F off. They responded, those followers, by telling those 2 girls that they needed a beating and a raping, and they were ugly and they were stupid, and what's all this woman's right nonsense about anyway? Of course he's dangerous. If he chooses to stand behind this sort of thin veil of irony, and I do think he does, that's one thing. And if ITV2 choose to stand by him, then I object to that. But behind all of that, he's actually giving those sorts of moronic men who think it's perfectly okay to threaten to rape a woman the kind of language and the acceptability and the tacit acceptance that ITV2 have given them.
Can I just put a point to you, which is that it's potentially the case that it's only funny because all those people who are watching him understand that it's outrageous. And if it was genuinely kind of seen as normal or acceptable, the humour would just wither away. So they're laughing at it, knowing that it makes certain people angry.
Well, first of all, I would say about that they're laughing at women. They're not laughing with, they're laughing at women. The butt of the joke is women. And then when you come out of the TV programme, you are then getting real men talking to real women who've done nothing to elicit that attention or approach from those men. You're getting those men saying you need a raping, you need a beating, and really, really shocking abuse. I was stunned by it. Yes, that's absolutely happened. So if you look at the blogs of those two girls, they have screen grabbed genuine tweets from men, supporters of his, who have been sent like a call to arms by him and told to get on those women and say F off. The people who were against Dappy started a petition. The people who were for him threatened to beat women.
I wonder whether that isn't a sign that this is all a bit sick and has gone way too far, and that it's a kind of maybe comes out of desire to be controversial and to make a name by going further than anyone else.
I don't think it's that controversial. I think what's happened is
we've just heard.
I think it's totally agree with something like that. You know, the stuff in the petition is fair comment. But what's happened is traditionally the media for many years was kind of had these gatekeepers, and they were the posh, the privileged, the upper class, the people who inherit power. And those people aren't needed anymore, or there isn't a role for them. Because the internet has democratised comment, and it's given everybody a publishing platform. And actually what's happened now is the people who are traditionally in Gin Lane are out there mouthing off. And most of these people who do the sort of thing that you're talking about hide behind the anonymity that the internet and that Twitter and so on gives them. And it's a different thing. And I think
let me just put one last point to Sally. I wonder whether what the conditions are that create people finding this kind of humour amusing. I wonder whether there's a sort of what someone in our office called a lad lash. It's a sort of backlash against blokes feeling that the urges they have and the sort of fantasies they might entertain are somehow have to be contained.
First of all, I think that's incredibly patronising to working class people. The idea that working class people are offensive, find this stuff funny in their droves, and that's the most we can aspire to from working class comedy is completely ridiculous. No working class person I know. I grew up in.
No one said working class.
You talked. Yeah, James did. I'm responding to that point.
No, I didn't talk about working class.
You said people who traditionally would
Anyway, no, but finish your point.
But the internet is a wild west. All sorts of things go on the internet that are extremely popular. People can find their niche. What happens is when ITV2 commissions something as a public broadcaster, they put forward a tacit acceptance of that sort of behaviour. And just as he's been banging on about freedom of speech all week, people have responded by exercising their freedom of speech, and they've taken him down, and rightly so.
We need to leave it there. Thank you both very much.